Shalom, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a live episode of Faith Walk, the intersection of life and faith. It is Wednesday, May the 15th, 2024, and it is a great day to be alive. And if you're watching this, you are alive, and that is a beautiful thing. And so we want to thank God for waking us up this morning and giving us a new day to be better, a new day to challenge ourselves to do something different than we did yesterday to make us better. That's what it's all about, being better today than yesterday and better tomorrow than today. And that's the best we can ask for. We're not asking for perfection, we're asking for better. All right, so let's see who's in the chat. Maybe there's somebody who's first. Okay, not yet. Who? Let me see. Is Ayana going to be first today? Honey Bunch is going to be first today. I don't know. The Lee girls are always vying back and forth. So we're going to see who's first. And I'm going to bring Sandra on a little bit later as we get into the meat of the show. Aisha is first. Oh my gosh, Aisha is running. It's just like that the Kentucky Derby race. Aisha is running neck and neck with Ayana. And I think there's probably like 4 to 5. Aisha 4, Ayana 5. So Ayana, I don't know, you're slipping. Aisha's on your trail. Hi, Aisha. Welcome to the show this evening. Thank you for being the first one. Smooches. Again, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are talking about the misdiagnosed Black community. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we've been talking about the Black church, the Black community, and tonight we're talking about the misdiagnosed Black community, and that's misdiagnosed regarding mental health and a lot of things that people don't even realize that go into mental health and that go into how we live and we do each and every day. So we're going to get into that conversation. And again, this is Faith Walk, the intersection of life and faith. And tonight's intersection is the misdiagnosis of the Black community. So when you log on, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and like the Facebook page if that's how you're watching. And please like the video. It helps the algorithm and it helps me to stay on and to be on for a long time and for more people to see the video in their feed, the more people who like and subscribe and follow the pages. All right. So Aisha, yay. Aisha, I don't know what those things are that you put up there, but I'm sure that they are happy signs. Oh, you know what? It's a horse. Kentucky Derby. Ah, you got me. You got me. That's good. That's good. My eyes, I don't see as well as I could if I had made things a little bit bigger, but I got you. Young mind, young mind. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. All right. So again, we're talking about the misdiagnosed Black community. So let's just jump right in. So as a clinician, I'm a professional counselor, and I'm in private practice, and I see young people. I see young people as young as 5 years old, all the way up to seniors, and I've been doing this in my field for over 20 years. So I've got a lot of experience and education in this field. So oftentimes our young people are diagnosed with ADD, attention deficit disorder, ADHD, attention hyperactivity disorder, attention hyperactivity deficit disorder. I might have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, mix up the letters, and ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, which in my estimation professionally is more of a parenting issue than an oppositional defiant disorder diagnosis. Oftentimes, not saying that there aren't some true ODD children, but a lot of times when I see the parents and how they are parenting, a lot of times it's because the parents don't have boundaries with their children. And so therefore the children are going to behave. If I didn't have boundaries when I was a kid, I would behave any old kind of way too. Wouldn't most of us, even as an adult, right? So we need boundaries, healthy boundaries. And so a lot of what I have seen is not a lot of healthy boundaries in families. And so therefore children can become defiant as well as some other things. And then there's conduct disorder, doing different things with poor behavior. We'll just label it that. And again, maybe if there were more structure and boundaries, et cetera, in the home, maybe some of that conduct would not be as such. So in my estimation, professionally, I believe that often our children, specifically Black children, are misdiagnosed, and for many, many reasons, especially in the school system, because we tend to, in my estimation, with my experience, teachers have large classrooms, and it's just one person. They can't be everywhere and be attentive to everyone at the same time. So um, it's easy to say, oh, Johnny gets out of his seat all the time and he does this and he's not watching, he's not listening, he's not doing this. I think he has ADD. And then you go send him where to a psychiatrist or whoever evaluates him, and they diagnose him with ADD. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm being a little flippant, but that's how I feel. Because it's not just a band-aid issue. Again, let's look at the root of maybe why Johnny does this, because oftentimes what I find is Johnny may do this one place but he doesn't do it another place. So if he doesn't do it another place, then maybe it's not really that diagnosis. It's just that the other place has more structure and more boundaries, and Johnny knows that he can't get away with that behavior. And case in point, what I often see is a lot of times children will behave one way at home and another way at school, because home is more lax rules. Where school, you might get in school suspension, out of school suspension, get into some sort of trouble, and then you're going to call your parents or expelled. There's some sort of consequence that the child doesn't want to receive. So therefore, they're not going to do but so much. But then the child gets home and all these behaviors start, such as hitting and kicking the parents, and breaking things, and not doing homework, bouncing off the walls of some sort. But the teacher might say, well, I don't see that at home, I mean at school. Or another, a person in authority at school will say, Johnny's the perfect student at school. And then sometimes it's switched. Johnny's better at home, but at school, he's acting out. Somewhere there's a disconnect, and just labeling Johnny with ADD or ADHD, I think, is a misdiagnosis. And we do Johnny and his family and the community a disservice by not figuring out what the root cause of the issue is. And as a clinician, I believe that is my job, not to just slap a band-aid diagnosis on. And then, of course, with the ADD or the ADHD diagnosis, now what's going to happen? Medication, right? Now, of course, medication is a choice. The parents don't have to agree to it. However, all these complaints are coming home from the school, you have to do something with Johnny, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, whatever, whatever. And the parent feels like they're behind the eight ball because they don't understand what's going on. They got this diagnosis. They can't, get Johnny to do whatever. And now, okay, let's get him on medication. So now the young person is more sedated at school. So now his personality is suppressed, and behaviors are not non-existent, but much different. And now the classroom is not as chaotic for the teacher to be able to handle. And also, too, we know we have classroom aides and one-on-ones, behavioral assistants, and things of that nature for those people who may need it, such as Johnny, right? And so, but then there's the medication too. The first thing that should be tried before medication is dispensed with, and I'll say most, if not all, mental health disorders, is to try to change behavior, modify behavior first before medication. But we are a society that throws pills at everything. So what we do is we put the pills first, the medication first, and go to therapy also. Now, if you're on medication, you should be in therapy. Should go hand in hand. Well, there's a lot of people who don't. I got medication, I'm good. So I think. But if you're on medication, talk therapy is definitely in order. But talk therapy should be tried first to learn how to modify the behavior. So therefore, the medication might not be needed if we uncover what the root cause of the problem is, and now modify the behavior, child and family. Now there's no need for medication, and now Johnny's doing better at home and at school. Isn't that a better way to solve the issue than medicating our children? We have children 5, 4 years old on medication. That is insanity. What are we doing to our children? What message are we sending to our children? Just throw a pill at it and you'll be fine. So when Johnny grows up and becomes a teenager or whatever age, just throw a pill at it. Well, maybe now I'll take some pills that I can become addicted to. Not saying that is the what Johnny wants, but hey, well, I took this to help with that issue, and that's what society is saying that we do. Well, now that I'm feeling X, Y, and Z way, let me just take a pill that'll take the edge off because I'm feeling stressed in some type of way because of what's going on with me. We have to be really careful what signs and signals we're sending to our children with what we do and what we allow them to do. Again, medication is legal, but that doesn't mean it's always necessary. And parents have to advocate for their children to not just be put on medication, and challenge the mental health clinician and mental health community to diagnose your child properly. So when they come up with these diagnoses and you know that you see some other things, as well as you know Johnny's history, right? And so you can inform the clinician that's doing the diagnosing, the psychiatrist or whomever, that listen, Johnny has this trauma in his background, or Johnny has this experience in his background that I believe is contributing to these behaviors that we're seeing at home and at school. Now that presents a different picture when we know Johnny has been physically abused or possibly SA'd. Remember, I told you we can't say certain things, you know, on these YouTube streets, right? But if you EX with an S in front of it, assaulted like that, you know, through whether it was domestic or whether it was a stranger, it doesn't matter. However it happens, parents need to give the clinician information that will help them diagnose their child properly, and don't just settle. Push back on some of these diagnoses. Push back on the fact that I don't think my child needs medication. There's more going on here. And if we get to the root of the issue, then we can do something better. And parents and families, involve yourself in the therapy, because the root cause of the issue came out of a family dynamic. And so, again, as I've said often on this show, don't just send your child to therapy. You have to go too, because your child can learn all these great and wonderful things, but he's going to go back into that same household where everybody else has not learned this information. So they're still functioning in their dysfunction. And what's going to happen is Johnny's going to come back more functional, but he's going to revert back to his old dysfunctional ways because nobody else in the family has changed. Happens all the time. So the family needs to go to therapy, because Johnny's just the one that screamed the loudest, who just had the behaviors that spoke the loudest. So therefore, Johnny's the one that's being singled out to get the help. But in actuality, everybody needs the help. So we can learn how to modify our behaviors as a family. And now we can do something different, learning how to communicate better as individuals within a family unit. Learn different ways of parenting the diagnoses, right, of certain children. When there's trauma, when a child has experienced trauma, there's certain things that parents need to know to do differently than if the child didn't have trauma. Because trauma behavior looks the same as defiance, it looks the same as hyperactivity and some other things. So if I'm just treating my child as if he's defiant and it's really a trauma response, then I'm missing the whole picture. And I'm never going to get the result from Johnny that I want, because I'm just treating him as if he's being defiant when actually he's experienced trauma and he's being triggered. And that's why he's behaving the way he's behaving right now. It's not defiance, it's a trauma response. But if parents don't go to therapy themselves and learn this through the therapeutic process, they're just going to treat it like defiance and punish it possibly. And that's one of the biggest reasons, in my estimation, professionally, that we're not seeing a lot of changes in our family dynamic, because we're punishing trauma because we don't know it's trauma. We think it's defiance. And our children are misdiagnosed, and our parents aren't attending therapy with their children so they can learn to do something better. Those three things, it's mandatory. And this is how the Black community can begin to not be so misdiagnosed and to take charge of their own mental health as individuals, but as a family unit. When you send your child to the therapist, I'm going as well. might not go to every session, but the rest of the family, we're going as well. We need to learn to do some things as well. We need to learn to do some things differently. We need to learn how to communicate differently. How do I parent a child who experiences what my child has experienced? Every child is different. There's no cookie cutter where you just parent every child the same way. It doesn't work like that. And we've been trying to do that, and it's not working. How long are we going to continue to do the same thing and get the same result and not try to do something different so we can get a better result? Let's stop the insanity. So let's get off the couch, go to therapy with our children, and do something different. I often see parents will keep those appointments with their children, but when it comes time for their appointments, they'll cancel them. Come on. That speaks volumes right there. Johnny doesn't miss an appointment, but mom does, dad does, or both do. You see what I'm saying? You get it? Parents, you are just as involved. You are just as much a part of the issue as Johnny is. Actually, probably more, because you are the parent, and how you're parenting and the family dynamic depends on you. So parents have to get involved more. And especially when your child is being diagnosed and they want you to want your child to be put on medication, you need to be present. You need to speak up. You need to advocate for your child and what you think is best for them, and seek second opinions. Get an outside therapist to give an opinion as well, as opposed to this one that the school provides, who, not saying that what I'm saying is actually factual, but it's the school psychologist and the teacher saying Johnny's wilding out in class. And so that's what's written out on paper. So the school psychologist is going to say, oh, yeah, it's ADD. He's going to put him on this, and let's put him on this medication. We know how it goes, right? And especially Black and brown children. We've got to be more involved so our children, one, aren't misdiagnosed if they need to be diagnosed at all. But we know how our school systems are and can be with Black and brown children. So parents, I admonish you to get involved, because this is a pervasive issue. I've got more than 20 years experience in this very thing. I know what I'm speaking about. It's time to take charge of your children's mental health. You might not be the clinician, but you are their biggest advocate with that clinician, with that psychiatrist. You will not medicate my child. We will talk about what the root cause of this issue is, and not put a Band-Aid on it, and giving them all the information that you know of, and then asking them to explain it to you, asking the diagnosing clinician, explain this to me. Why are you diagnosing my child with this? Tell me what the criteria are for this diagnosis. When I've shared with you X, Y, Z, A, B, and C, where are those criteria in this diagnosis? Yes, the criteria should be in the diagnosis. And if you told the evaluator this, and this, and they're sharing with you the criteria, and you don't hear any of that, well, why not? There's a problem with that. Find the diagnosis that speaks to this, and this, and this, as well as that, and properly diagnose my child. Because when we're misdiagnosing and then we're providing medication for a diagnosis that's not even the diagnosis. Come on, we got to do better. We have to do better. Parents must get more involved. Let me check the chat, because I can go on and on. Aisha says good evening. Kevin English says good evening, beautiful people. Hi, Kevin. How are you? Ayana says I'm checking on YouTube today. I'm checking in on YouTube today. Hi, Ayana. Aisha beat you today. She won the Kentucky Derby. Look, she put her horses up there. Oh, and Kevin is a new, I believe he's a new watcher, viewer of the show. Good evening, Kevin. Thank you so much for watching. Aisha says, let me put this up here. Let me make it larger. Yep, the squeaky wheel gets oil. So Johnny is getting the fix, but all the wheels need a tune-up. Preach, Aisha. Love it. Kevin says, sadly, some parents don't see how they contribute to their children's behaviors. Kevin, you said nothing but a word. I say that every single week that I'm on this show. It is my battle cry that parents wake up and understand that children don't get the way they are in a vacuum. It's out of a family dynamic that is mostly created by the parent because the parents are in charge of the household, right? And so some of the things, and this is a good segue into what it is that what else I wanted to bring up. So some of the different things, and let me put it up here. So on one of the banners that I created, some of the things that go into what we are experiencing as Black people that don't go into helping us be properly diagnosed, right? And so some of those things are childhood trauma, racial trauma. Now, you are hard pressed to find racial trauma in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders. That is the book of which, from which all mental health and addiction diagnoses come from. That is our book that clinicians use. And when we're diagnosing, racial trauma is not there, but racial trauma is a real thing. It is a real experience. So that right there tells you a lot, because Black people experience racial trauma consistently, because you cannot be a Black person in the United States and not experience that, because the world, our world here in the United States, is created on the idea of white supremacy. And so, that being factual, other things and systems are created out of that mindset that put Black people and other people of color behind the eight ball. So, but that's just a little bit on racial trauma. Poverty, anything that we experience for long periods of time that's a stressor, causes us trauma, emotional trauma, which oftentimes people don't even realize is the trauma that they experience. That's one of the things with parents that I keep sharing on this show, is emotional trauma happens very easily with the word choice that parents use when they're raising their children. We talk a lot about that here on this show. Derogatory terms, saying you're just going to be like somebody who's no good, one of the parents, whatever. Those words matter. And children are like sponges. They hold on to that. And parents' words are so powerful over their children. And then you wonder why Johnny becomes like that person that you said he was going to become like. Well, you spoke it over his life. It matters. You didn't build him up, you tore him down. So therefore, his life may not be as productive as it could have been had you encouraged him, had you challenged him to his potential, right? Community violence. That's another thing that goes into our Black experience. And I'm not saying other ethnicities, races don't experience this. They do. But I'm specifically speaking about Black people today. Community violence goes into a lot of our experiences. And so it becomes a part of our mental health, but it doesn't go into our mental health diagnosis, right? Because if I live in an urban environment and there's a lot of killing, a lot of drug dealing, a lot of this, a lot of that, but now I'm sitting in front of the psychiatrist and I'm saying, oh, well, Johnny doesn't sit down and Johnny doesn't do this, but Johnny hears gunshots out of his window every night, possibly have seen someone who's gotten shot and maybe even passed away, or could have been a firsthand witness to a crime, or secondary, a witness to a crime. But this is repeated trauma. This ongoing violence, anything that's repeated for a period of time, can cause us trauma. That's trauma. That's why poverty can cause emotional trauma, because that's a repeated, ongoing experience. And any type of family stressor that's repeated, ongoing, such as financial issues, such as a parent with mental health issues, it causes trauma in the family, because a parent is now parenting out of their mental health issue and not realizing actually what's going on in their parenting. They may even know that they have this particular disorder, but how is it coming out through your parenting? Oh, but trust me, it is. That's why everybody needs to be in therapy, so we can understand how our issues are being placed on our children parenting, as well as whoever we're in relationship with, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a co-worker, whether it's a boss, employee, whatever. Our issues come out in our relationships. But when we don't know what our issues are, then, well, this is just me. No, that's not just you. That's you and your issues speaking for you. But when you become healed, now my issues no longer speak for me because I'm not carrying that weight and that burden around to therefore then project onto someone else or be in denial of whatever my defense might be. Now I'm having healed relationships because I'm no longer being triggered and then giving you my trauma response. Now I'm just responding from a healed place. That's a totally different relationship. That's a totally different level of parenting when you're parenting from a healed place. Now, none of us will ever be 100% because we're flawed, broken human beings in our humanity. So let's be clear about that. But we can all be better, right? Better today than yesterday, better tomorrow than today. That's the goal, not perfection. So we have to resolve within ourselves in the Black community that we want to be better. And in order to be better, I have to not be lazy. I have to get involved and do something different. Yes, it takes work. And that's part of the problem. We don't want to do the work. I'll send my kid and let my kid do the work so my kid can get better. Parent, you are the first partaker of all of this. You are the first example for your children. Let's stop this hypocritical parenting. I can do it, but Johnny can't. No, that day is long gone. Let Johnny see you do it so he knows that he can. Well, mom's going to therapy. Well, dad's going to therapy. Maybe I should join them. Can I go to one of your sessions? Because I'm feeling X, Y, and Z way too. Absolutely. And you know what? We can get you your own therapist too. How about that? How great would that be? And I know families who are in counseling like that, and they are so much better. And they are so thankful that they did it. They express it all the time. And just like, I wish more people would understand the greatness that's in them that be pulled out, that they can actually dig deep and pull up and strive for when they become healed, as they become healed, because there is a healing place. There is a healed place. We don't have to carry baggage, our trauma, our mental health issues. We don't have to carry them to the grave. That's a choice. Let's start making a better choice. If you don't want to do it for you, do it for your children. Do it for your grandchildren so they don't know what you knew. Because you're breaking the cycle of generational patterns of unhealthy behavior, unhealthy mindset. Break the generational pattern. You be the one to break that generational pattern in your family. And watch what a difference it can make. It just takes one person to do something different and to be that example. And then others want to follow because they see the result and they want that too. Be that one. Let me look at the chat. What am I doing here? Cancel this. All right. Give me a second, you guys. You know I'm a one-man show, so it takes me a minute. Kevin also says, I stay preaching therapy to Black people. We need to be on somebody's couch. Yes, Kevin. We all do. Everybody, every single person. I have my own therapist. Every single person that has breath in their body needs a therapist. Just life is just challenging. It doesn't even mean that you have a mental health disorder. It's just that, you know what? I need to talk to someone where it's confidential, it's safe, right? And a professional who understands these things that we go through psychologically. and who I can build a trusting relationship with. Now, every therapist is not for everybody. Everybody's not a fit. You have to find your fit, and that's fine. But find someone you fit with, whether you want someone of your same ethnicity or not, or if you want someone who practices the same religion that you do or not, whatever the case may be, find someone that fits. It will benefit you. Stop letting fear of the unknown and the enemy, because we know the enemy doesn't want us to get free. So we want to keep speaking in your mind. Oh, you don't need that. You're not crazy. Why are you going to go to therapy? Don't let her talk you into going to therapy. Ain't nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with all of us. Each and every one of us. Remember, in our humanity, we're broken and we're flawed. So there's something wrong with all of us. Some may have greater issues than others, but there's still something wrong with all of us. Even when we come from a healed place, we're never 100%. I'm just better. Don't you want to be better? So some of the other things, addiction. I'm not even sure if I said that before, but I know it was up on the screen. Addiction is one of those things that has really done a number in the Black community and to the Black family, among other things. But one of the things I wanted to say about addiction and misdiagnosis, not so much that the addiction is misdiagnosed, but addiction typically is a symptom of a bigger issue, a mental health issue. Because typically someone may use because they want to self-soothe, self-medicate. I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling this way, or something's going on at home and I don't know how to handle it and I'm stressed. So, let me try this alcohol. Let me try this weed, or try this, how it goes. And you try it. It's like, wow, oh wow, I feel good. Not thinking about my troubles when I'm using this. So then I use it again the next day. Nobody says, I'm going to use this and I'm becoming an addict. Nobody says that. But that's what happens when we use over and over again, that we were self-soothing from the mental health issue. Now I've got an addiction. So now it's twofold. But we need to diagnose the first issue. What was going on that contributed to you wanting to use something to self-soothe? What was the trauma? What was the emotional issue? And so we do ourselves, our community, our clients a disservice when we only diagnose the addiction. We need to diagnose what started before the addiction. Some other things, absent parents, one, both, whatever the case may be, it causes a problem. It causes a problem in the family dynamic, because now Johnny is feeling some type of way, angry, depressed, whatever the feeling might be, whatever the emotional issue might be, because one or multiple of his parents haven't been in his life, and somebody else is raising him, grandparents are raising him, or one of the parents is raising him. So yeah, so now Johnny's acting out in school, doing all this, and you're diagnosing him. He's being diagnosed with ADD and ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. Well, how about let's look at what's going on in Johnny's family life. That dad's not present or mom's not present, and he's feeling some type of way about that. So how about diagnosing that, helping Johnny heal from that trauma, and then the acting out will stop, because now Johnny's healed. It wasn't ADD and ADHD. He had trauma from his home life, an absent parent, or a parent who was addicted to drugs, or some other family happening, abuse, some sort of domestic violence issue. We're putting band-aids on gaping wounds, and that's why it's not working. That's why, parents, you have to be an advocate when your children are being diagnosed, and stop keeping secrets. You tell psychiatrists, no, this is what's going on in our home. Don't keep the secret so then he'll just be diagnosed with ODD or ADHD or ADD. Tell the psychiatrist so now we can deal with this issue in a different way. Well, let's get the family some counseling. Mom, let's get you some counseling. Dad, let's get you some counseling and learn how to work on this family dynamic. Maybe no medication is needed at all. Just family therapy is needed, and individual therapy. We don't have to turn to medication for everything. But parents need to get involved and be super advocates for their children and stop being silent about what's going on in the home that's contributing to Johnny's behavior. Silence is sickness. And that's why we stay sick, because we keep silent. And when you're silent, you're condoning it. You're condoning your child being put on this medication, and you know what's going on at home. Can't have it both ways. Parents need to be advocates. Let's see if there's any other comments. Okay, you know what? As I always do, I lose track of time because I'm so passionate about what I believe and my profession and mental health and counseling that it's way past the time that I should have brought Sandra on. So I'm going to bring her on now. And will you like the YouTube page if you're watching via YouTube? Well, subscribe rather, and like the video. If you're watching via Facebook, please like the Facebook page. Full Life Communications is both on Facebook and YouTube. So like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and like the video no matter where you're watching. Share the video as well, because everybody needs to hear this information, not just who's watching now. And I appreciate you guys who are watching now, because this information is critical in order for us to get better, in order for us to heal. Hi, Sandra. How are you today?
Hey, Sharon, how you doing?
I'm doing
I'm
well.
just sitting here listening to all of this good information.
Yes, I know you were patiently waiting, and I appreciate you for that. So, Sandra,
Always.
you're in the mental health field, and you deal with people who have addictions as well as mental health issues. And
Right.
I know that you, because of your personality, you tend to get to know clients who aren't even yours, right? On
Oh,
a deeper level than
yeah.
maybe even their own counselors, right? And so
Yep.
you getting to know them, then you get to understand their history, some of their trauma, their life experiences. So
Mhm.
that being said, based on what you heard me share earlier, what are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, if a person is coming in with an addiction, right? And I'm sitting down, I'm having a conversation. And when they start telling their life story, it's like, ooh, wait a minute. Whoa. No wonder you've chose. I'm not giving an excuse, but it's like, no
Mhm.
wonder you are addicted to this, and this. Wow, look at what you've experienced. And with
Absolutely.
that being stated, there's these diagnoses of addiction. And let me just say this: everybody don't have bipolar. Everybody's not bipolar. If somebody is happy
Right.
today and sad this evening, oh, I got bipolar. Okay, I don't know why people want to have bipolar, but you don't. Everybody doesn't have bipolar, right? And
Right.
with that is big.
It's like the
Uh,
diagnosis of the day,
that's the
right?
diagnosis of
And
the day.
everybody's narcissistic today too, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. Everybody's bipolar, and if they're on crack or cocaine, oh, I got cocaine, but I'm bipolar too. But the thing of it is that when you see some of these diagnoses, and I remember one person in particular kept fighting to get their diagnosis changed, because the
Hmm.
thing of it is, if you go, and what I try to tell people, when you go to the hospital or when you talk to a psychiatrist, whatever you are demonstrating at the time when you are being when they're doing the assessment. So if you, let's say you're just talking belligerent out of your head, and maybe you're not really hearing voices, you're just kind of in your own mind, just kind of thinking of some stuff. Whatever you're doing and showing, that is what is being written down, like, oh, okay, this is what it is.
Hmm.
And it's not always that. And some, again, like you said before, sometimes just seeing the person. Now I'm looking at this person. I know what this is, and they don't really know. Again,
Right.
talk about the Black community, the brown community, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it's
Yes.
like, oh, I can look at you, I can tell you're doing too much, you're waving your hands, you're flopping all around. Okay, yeah, bipolar. And that's not
Hmm.
even the case. And so I remember one particular person, they were trying for years to change the diagnosis because they really were diagnosed wrong. So not only do you get diagnosed wrong, but then trying to get it to be reversed is difficult too, because what happens when you go from hospital to institute, to institution, hospital to programs, whatever's on the paperwork, kind of that's
Yes.
kind of what they're going to look at, even if they're not even seeing these same things. It kind of goes with you, right?
Right.
So just like you said, you have to Yeah, they may be on drugs, but what is really the underlying problem? Let's talk about the
Exactly.
underlying problem. Has anybody even ever dealt with you? And I got to tell you, so many people, they want a mama. And I think I must be the mother, even though I call myself mother most of the time. A lot of times I say, "Yeah, mother's here." There is so many people that is looking for mother. And so if I'm sitting down, and I'm a mothering person, right? And I'm sitting down and I'm doing what I do and I'm showing love, and then they show up at the door 5 minutes later, they just want to be in the presence of what they feel love. People are wanting acceptance. They want to be
Yeah.
loved. So if you're
Yeah.
not showing love, then what happens? Okay, let me go out here and I'm gonna get some crack or take some pills and mix all that stuff together because I need to have love. I need to do this. And if I can't get it there, I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to have that feeling just kind of buried, right?
Right.
Numb it. So
Exactly.
this is
Self-soothing.
what happens. And so that's why a lot of times you get the wrong diagnosis because the person needs to be treated for something other than their addiction, just like you said.
Hmm.
Mental health diagnosis. In other words, sometimes, even though a person may be on drugs, their mental health outweighs the addiction.
Right. It's like what happened, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right?
Exactly. We
You
need to
deal
talk
with the
about this.
root cause,
Uh-huh.
then maybe you won't. You deal with the root cause and there's no need to use.
Exactly. And
Right.
that's actually what happens, but you have to have people that care and take time and peel back the onion. And so that's
Exactly.
always, like you said before, we get diagnosed so wrong from the beginning just by the look. You
Right.
know that saying, it says you can't judge by a book by its cover. You know that saying.
Right. Right.
Sometimes you can look at somebody like, yep, they on crack. I mean,
Yes.
and that's how it is. Oh
Right.
yeah, they
Yeah.
nasty. Oh yeah, they this. Oh yeah, they that. And you haven't really sat down to even find out what happened. Maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe
Exactly.
they had the wrong detergent on. That's why they scratching. Maybe the
Right.
detergent got on. You know what I'm
You
saying?
don't know just on one visit. I think a person should have to have 3 visits with the assessor, the
Right.
evaluator, psychiatrist, whomever, because you could just be having
Exactly.
a bad day. And so that's what the assessor is seeing. So now, oh, this, and that. But I was just maybe I had a bad morning because X,
Right.
Y, and Z. And now that's why, I've got some anxiety right now, whatever, but that's going to calm down this
Right.
afternoon. But I'm seeing you right now. So
Right.
we should have at least 3 visits to see a person over 3 times to
Mhm.
now get a sense of, okay, one day I saw this, one day I saw that, one time I saw this. Okay, now let's put it all together, right?
Exactly.
And what the background is. The history is so important. All of the history, the
Yes.
silent
Exactly.
part of the history. We need it
Exactly.
to be properly diagnosed. And again, the
Exactly.
mental health field, our field, needs to come up in our DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, to include racial trauma. I mean,
Yes.
duh. Like, but
Hello.
again, the people who create the book look like us. So
Right.
they're not even thinking about that experience. Yes, we're coming, it's coming of age,
Right.
hopefully, with each, iteration, but it's 2024. 2 years
Exactly.
ago, the DSM-5 TR came out and it's still not in there. What are we doing? What
Right.
are we doing? So when you see Black people who are angry, well, we have a right to be angry.
Right.
Racism exists and it's real, and that's part of our anger. And I'm
Exactly.
not saying that's, all the anger and that Black people are angry because of racism, but I'm saying it's a big part of our life. And so it has to be thought about in there and how it's contributing to our mindset, our
Mhm.
behavior, our
Mhm.
coping strategies or the lack thereof, our
Right.
emotional makeup. It needs to
Mhm.
be factored in,
It has to be factored in,
but it's not.
but it's
Now,
not.
again, we are getting better because now there's training. The DSM-5 needs to be caught up, but people are going to more trainings and understanding how race plays a part, and diversity and inclusion and all of that. But we still have a long way to go because
Right.
also too, I might talk about it with my clients and how did this affect you? How did the George Floyd thing, that word affect you? Because we know it affected you as a Black person, even though you
Exactly.
didn't know him. We need to talk about that. And how did that impact your mental health? And how all these other Black people who are by police officers, unprovoked and unarmed, it affects
Right.
us,
Right.
but it's not talked about in our therapy sessions. Oh, the person's coming in for Black person's coming in for, I'm coming in for this. Not even talking about, well, how does your community where you live, how does that affect your mental health? Do you live in
Right.
an environment where there's a lot of community violence?
Hmm.
Have you watched these videos of Black people being offed, unarmed Black people
Hmm.
being off? We need to be talking about this when we're diagnosing and
Right.
treating Black people and brown people. We need to
Right.
talk about this because it's all factored in, not just
Oh,
one slice of the pie. Now I'm going to diagnose you. We're missing 3/4 of the pie.
exactly.
So that's the misdiagnosis of the
Hmm.
Black community. So
Hmm.
before we go, and we have about 10 minutes left, um, I wanted to get into one of the reasons, and I believe a major reason, um, why the Black community is where it is right now.
Hmm.
And this is as it relates to mental health. This is as it relates to everything, every aspect of our
Every
walk as a Black community, right?
right.
Jesus has been taken out of the picture for many of
Hello.
us, right? There was a time when, and this may be an exaggeration, but there was a time when all Black folks went to church, right?
That's not an exaggeration.
And
At
so,
least 90,
right,
95%.
exactly. And then time moved on, and I'm going to say, and I don't know, you guys in the chat, you let me know. I'm thinking the 80s was like a turning point because I know, I was born in 64, so 60s, 70s, I went to church. My brother went to church. My brother's a little older than me, and I didn't know anybody who really didn't go to church, I don't believe. So I'm thinking maybe the 80s was like the shift or late 70s. I'm not sure. Put in the chat if you all know when that shift took place
Mhm.
with parents not taking their children to church. And then, of course, now it's 2024, decades later, there are people who I come in contact with who have never, and this is adults, never been to church ever. It wasn't introduced to them in their family. And so, therefore, it was nothing that they knew to do. Of course, it's something that they heard about, but I
Right.
don't know about church. Nobody ever introduced me to church. That's a big part, I believe. It's my personal opinion, not my professional opinion, that Jesus is missing in the Black family and the Black community. And
Amen.
when Jesus is missing, life is missing,
You're
right?
done. You're
Because
done.
he holds the key to everything. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Can't get to the Father except through him.
Right.
And he holds everything in his hand. If he withheld his breath, if God withheld his breath right now, we would all drop dead. He is the very breath and essence of us, of who we are. So we walked away from the one who holds our breath, our life, our time in his
Yes.
hand.
All in his hands.
And now we see and have been seeing unrest in our family, in the Black family,
Hmm.
in the Black community. So much unrest.
So much.
But the answer is we can get Jesus back. All it takes is a decision. Am I right, Sandra Lee?
One decision.
One decision. Confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart he was raised from the dead, and you shall be saved. That's
That's
Romans
it.
6:10 and 9. I didn't make it up. That is the word. And even if you don't make a confession of your faith, just go to church. Hear the word. Listen to the word.
Right.
and hear what it says about you in the word. Pick up the Bible for yourself. Read what God says about you in the word, because you're in there. You were created with a purpose, because you were on his mind. Don't care how you got here. You could have gotten here by a violent means, but God knew you were going to get here, and he still had purpose for you. But if you don't get to know him and find out why he created you, then you're fumbling through life and making errant decisions because you don't know who you are. And the Black community is stumbling, not knowing who they are, not knowing our worth, our value, because we've gone astray, many of us. But like the prodigal son, Jesus never left us. He's standing there with his arms wide open, not judging, just come on back. I'm
Right.
waiting for you. No judgment. Jesus is the no judgment zone.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants you to be his so he can protect you and keep you and guide you on your way and give you the peace that you're seeking. That's what all this mental health and addiction stuff is about. You're
Right.
seeking peace because you
Peace.
don't have any peace and joy. And those two things come from the Lord. True peace and joy comes from the Lord.
Right.
So if that's what you're seeking, and it is, because that's what we all want,
Right.
seek him and you'll find it. So
Right.
that's the answer. Among going to counseling, other things, going
Right.
to counseling, because Jesus created counselors such as myself and Sandra Lee, right?
Right.
Because he works through people. He works through us to help heal you. It's not by our power, by our authority. It's by his. We are just the vessels that he chooses to use because we have submitted ourselves to him to be a willing vessel. We have a choice. We could have said, no, I don't want to do that. But we
Mm-hmm.
said, your will be mine, God, and use me as you will. I accept the calling to be a counselor
Right.
for your purposes, to heal your people. Sandra Lee, I'm going to let, because I will sit here. I'm going to words because I will keep talking. Wait. Before you do, let me see if there's any, oh my gosh, there's comments. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm so sorry. So let's see, I'm not sure where I stopped, but seems like this is Ayana. Seems like those that are diagnosing have neglected biopsychosocial aspects of the assessment, not looking at the whole picture. That is definitely true. But one of the things, Ayana, with that biopsychosocial, parents aren't still being honest, right, about that home life, right, that social aspect and the home aspect of that. And doctor doesn't know you. So if you don't tell it all, I'm only going off of what you tell me. We got to break that silence because it's keeping us sick. But you're right. The whole biopsychosocial assessment needs to go into place, and it's biopsychosocial spiritual because we have added the spiritual component because we've understood that is what's necessary. Kevin says, and your hugs are the best, Sandra. Oh my gosh, we can't even get into Sandra because Charles, she'll have
Thank
you
you, Kevin.
in deliverance from one hug. I know.
Right there.
It sounds like Kevin knows too. And
Yes.
Ayana says it seems like the folks that are diagnosing are neglecting the body. Okay, yeah. I read that. And Sharon Montgomery says, "Hey Sharon, how are you?" Sharon says, "Late 70s, love of self and alternative beliefs and levels of consciousness." Okay, thank you, Sharon. Yep, late 70s. I mean, things just shifted, you know.
Shifted.
Ayana says, wow, I was literally thinking the same thing when you talked about folks using substances to self-soothe and are still unsatisfied. I'm thinking like that's where Jesus steps in. Preach, Ayana. That is where he steps in. And okay, Ayana said he's the mind regulator. Woo, woo. Uh, don't start preaching up in here.
We could start an offering on that one.
Sharon's probably got another doozy for us. False sense
Yes.
of self-love by outside stimuli instead of knowing whose we are and who created us fearfully and wonderfully made. Yes, we are. Child, we going to church tonight. This
Okay.
Black community in total have been missing. Because once you
Yes.
get a taste of Jesus, there is no going back. Back to what?
To what?
Back to what? He is the answer for all things.
Period.
Period with a capital T and an exclamation point. All right, Sandra, have the last word. Have the last word.
Well, Sharon, I'm telling you, this is the thing of it is the fact that as you are talking about how people are people of color, of course, are being misdiagnosed, but then the thing of it is how you slid in Jesus, right? And you know, Kevin, thank you so much, Kevin, for joining and all of your comments. We hope you'll be back next week at 8 o'clock. Um, and everybody else that's on. The thing of it is that you wonder why sometimes people are drawn to you, right?
Yes,
You, me, you know, but what I say is not me, but it's the Christ that lives in me, right?
that's right.
But what they see when they come this way is like, I don't know what it is, but I need to have whatever it is this lady got. She seems to be able to have this, or this person seems to be able to have this. And they say, you know, Sandra, don't hug. Kevin talked about the hugs, right? Don't be hugging anybody. But let me tell you right now, hugs are anointed because the thing of
Yes.
it is, um,
Your hugs are anointed.
everybody ain't right. That's true. But I'm saying, like, what I've noticed for real that you know, hugging somebody and it's almost like they've never been hugged in their life, and you can just
Hmm.
feel everything in them melting down like somebody cares. But
Right.
the thing of it is, not only do you do that, but you keep talking to them, and like you were saying before, even though I'm not, my position now is in the outreach department, but most of my years was in as a case manager. But I case manage everybody because the thing of it is, sometimes people want to have a conversation with this particular person because it's giving them something a little different, something
Right.
more, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to say Jesus, 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 Jesus. That's
Not at
not even what
all.
I be saying. It's not even that. It is showing love in different ways, showing and just being a good listening ear. Because this ear right here is an ear. This is a Jesus ear. So
Right.
I'm listening in a different way, right?
And you're
And you
not
different way.
judging, Sandra Lee. You're not judging.
Not at all. And anybody that knows, you know, when they come, despite whether they stink, whether they nasty, whether they just came off the streets, there is never a person sitting in front of me where I'm going, if you don't get out of here with your stinking self, you will never hear that from me. They will never be able to, you will never ever feel like I am literally judging you
Right.
because that's not what people need. They don't need to
That's
go
right.
into a therapist and the therapist is going, well, why in the world would you be using drugs? And why
Exactly.
did
That's
you
what
leave your
everybody
children?
else does.
That's what everybody else did. Why did you leave your children? And what in the world would make you spend all of your rent money? That didn't make no sense. That's not what they need to hear. They want to
Exactly.
know, what can I do to get better, to
Right.
make better decisions? What can I
And
do?
who
You
can
better
love
make
me
better decisions. What
despite
have
my flaws?
you?
Right? Who can
Exactly.
love me through this
Who can
despite what
love me
I've done?
despite
Right?
what I've done? And when you're
Exactly.
looking for, um, like you were saying before, a good therapist, a counselor, or whatever, you do want to look for somebody that has a belief in something that you believe in. You know, you want to have the right match, right? Uh, if it's not Jesus, I'm not trying to go to anybody, and this is not trying to say anything negative, but if it's not Jesus, crystals ain't gonna do it for me.
I
Okay,
hear you.
crystals ain't gonna do it for me. And some of the other practices that people do, I just can't go with it. And so it's one of those situations where you do want to just kind of search around to get the right help. And when you are
Right.
diagnosed, if your children ever have a diagnosis where you don't really understand it, you need to have a conversation like, why did you say this right here? Why did you put this down? It's okay to question what is written. It's okay. It's okay to question that.
Absolutely. We
You
have
know.
one final comment before we go. And Sharon says it's a Shantatata, Shantatala hug.
Oh, she's talking about my hugs. Chantalazai,
Shantala,
my hugs.
Shantatata. I don't know. Is that
It's
tongue,
probably
Sharon?
Sharon speaking in tongues.
That's what I was thinking.
She do
Exactly,
that tongue
Sharon. That's
talking,
exactly
right?
the type of hug it is.
I say.
It's a Holy Ghost hug.
Yes, honey.
Oh, well, ladies
Oh
and
yeah,
gentlemen,
I'm so
that
glad
is
Sharon joined again tonight.
yes. Thank you all for joining the show. Sharon, Aisha, Ayana, Kevin. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I'm going back up here. I think that was all. Thank you all
And
for
all
joining the
those,
show this
everybody else
evening.
may
Yeah,
not have put in the
yeah,
comments,
they
but
probably didn't make a comment. And
yeah,
if you
yeah.
didn't make a comment, that's fine too. Share the video, like the video, like the Facebook page, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't keep all this great and wonderful information to yourself because we need to heal. And we will only be able to heal if people hear the information. So thank you so much for participating and engaging in the conversation tonight. You guys made some great, wonderful comments, as you
Yes,
always do. So thank you so
always.
much for joining Sandra and I tonight. Join us next Wednesday, live at
Yes.
8 p.m., as we continue with our conversation about the Black community and mental health. And just so you know, June, we're going to talk about the Black woman. It's the
Ooh,
Black Woman Month. So
yes.
stay
All right.
tuned. We got a lot of good things in store for you. We
We
love
ready.
you. God
Love you
bless
too.
you. Have a God evening.
Absolutely.
Shalom.
All right. Love you. Good night.